It's hard to tell, but he's clearly losing the war in Iraq. He's losing the war at home.
The 2024 Republican presidential primary field is taking shape.
The battle lines are becoming clearer, and so is the field of candidates.
Is the odds-on favorites, if you look at the polling, still Trump versus Biden?
That seems to be it, but it's just way too early to tell.
I'm more angry now, and I'm more committed now than I ever was.
Big challenge for these candidates is going to be how do they navigate Donald Trump? And how do they navigate Ron DeSantis?
You and I have a rendezvous with them.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Variety Program, a big Thursday episode to you. That, again, was the President of the United States talking about Putin losing the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
Apparently he did this twice yesterday.
Oh, boy.
He was both at a fundraiser and then again coming out of the White House yesterday. Biden referred to Ukraine as Iraq.
Yeah.
Well, it's a stutter.
He also talked about how his new best friend is the Prime Minister of China before correcting himself and talking about that it was the Prime Minister of India that he was referring to.
I think we can really win the war in Iraq if we just find a way to fund the moderate Wagner group on the ground.
Well, you got to fight them over here so we don't, or over there so we don't fight them over
That's
here.
right. All right, yeah.
A big episode for you today. We got an old friend coming in, Neil Chatterjee. He was the chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. That's a mouthful. We just call it FERC around Washington. But he was in the Trump administration. Now he's out doing his own thing, but he's a barrel of laughs.
Yeah.
So
great guy.
You guys are going to love it, and you're going to get some energy discussion here on the program. We got a sponsor today, Masterworks. You'll hear from them later on in the program. And a big thank you to Megyn Kelly yesterday. Fellas, didn't we have a good time with that?
It was a ball.
It was a ball. It was great. And it was also, it got heated at moments, which I really enjoyed.
I know. It was the first time we ever disagreed, and I actually loved it.
That was so good.
I loved it because it was like a very good, sensible, thoughtful I mean, everything with her is, but
right.
like disagreeing sensibly over things. That's great content.
Well, it's also, I feel like we do that a lot on our show amongst ourselves. And it's like, I feel like the conversation we had with Megyn is the conversation every conservative family is having right now.
It fits
100%.
together hand in glove. And then the final segment ending on a light note with the fashion and just poking fun at the old man a little bit. And
Yeah.
just always a good time.
I think for next time we go on there, you got to wear something provocative.
Like I really got a peacock.
Yeah.
We gotta go with yellow polo.
Yeah.
And like, what was it, pleated khaki?
If you did that, I would laugh. That would be so good.
With a wife beater underneath?
Yeah. It's we should all wear it next time we go on.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Okay, well, we're going to start the way we always do on Thursdays with some 5 stars and The Voice.
Okay, this first one comes from CDog1, and it's titled Mind Blown. CDog1 writes, I've been a research scientist for over 30 years, and through the course of my career, I have published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of the Sciences 4 times.
Penis!
And am currently preparing another manuscript for submission. Throughout all these years, I never even thought to pronounce the PNAS acronym the way you fellas do.
This could be the greatest reply we've ever gotten.
A literal scientist.
He writes, in fact, when I first heard it mentioned on the program, it took me a while to make the connection. Thanks to you, I am now dedicated to publish all of my findings in that heralded journal.
Ruthless Variety Program doing the work for people.
We're taking academia back from the left.
That's exactly right.
He writes, you're all the best. I've learned and laughed so much with you. Keep up the great work, fellas. Thank you,
so
CDog1.
That's awesome.
You know, when in doubt, just make some kind of a phallic reference and we can improve your organization overnight. All right, who wants this next one? Smuggles?
Absolutely. So this is from Collins426. The title is Charges. I've listened to every episode since Smug announced the podcast on his feed. Thank you. It says, I am supporting President Bobcat in the primary. Fantastic choice. And few episodes have made me laugh like the Charges episode.
That was a good
which
one.
is why I come hat in hand with a question. I've been invited to drink around the world at Epcot with a friend of mine. Do I tell them no because we would be subject to charges? Or is this an exception?
Well, we actually delved into this a little bit, and I was unclear. I don't think we've rendered a definitive opinion on this. Epcot is an entirely separate entity with a separate entrance
Yes.
that deals with food primarily from different locations around the world.
I think it's an exception as long as you aren't standing in line. If you're not standing in line with toddlers trying to get on the teacups, I think you're okay.
Are there kids at Epcot? It's mostly kids playing.
Kids
right?
I'm sure there's kids, but it's like that's where they.
What would you think of someone who went to a Build-A-Bear?
No. But you're
charges.
This is like walking to the bar across the street from Build-A-Bear.
Yeah.
No,
not going
because there's
into
kids there.
Build-A-Bear.
There's kids all over.
Have you been to Disney World with kids, Smug?
Not with kids. When I was a kid.
Okay.
So that's why I know.
Let me tell you,
there's
a difference between Fantasyland and Small World and the Peter Pan ride and the bars at Epcot. There's a difference. Like they try to push the adults to the bars at Epcot.
And then there's fireworks at night, right? And that whole thing.
Our argument is that they aren't doing enough to push the adults away from the kids' rides at Fantasyland.
So they have to actually have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
In Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is this is Florida. The number of places you can grab a drink that isn't a child's theme park. You know?
Smug is dug in.
I mean, but I'm trying to process this because here, look, if you have to use the same entrance, if it's the same living quarters, if it's the same sort of like monorail that you have to ride with kids going to the Magic Kingdom, charges. If it's entirely separate, and it is away from the Magic Kingdom in terms of its entrance, then I'm more lenient here.
And as I understand it, the idea behind Epcot is that you bring your kids to the Magic Kingdom during the day, and then you leave them with their aunt in the hotel room at night, and then mom and dad can go and have a drink in Epcot.
Well,
I think that's the idea behind it.
There's kids all over Epcot, dude.
Not at 9 o'clock at night. Charges. For crying out loud, 9 o'clock at night, you get your kids at Epcot.
I mean, I had nieces and nephews where we did something. So I was probably 16, so it's too. I was too old for the Magic Kingdom.
That's not a 5-year-old.
I didn't go there, but the kids were there, and we went to Epcot to have dinner. And 16-year-old Josh may have found a beer or two. May have.
So you're going to a place where they're serving underage kids, huh?
Well,
it's like a really insidious kind of establishment.
Well, some of us call it a growing up, pal. If you weren't equipped to find yourself a little triple sec out of the box in grandma's basement, I don't know what you were doing with your 16-year-old self. That's the way we rolled.
Smug.
What?
I think that's it. I think we're.
That's it. That was it. And I say no. 100% no.
No, okay.
I mean, you're in Orlando. There's a million bars. Hit one of them.
I think you try to float an alternative location if there's a particular reason to go to Epcot. I don't think it's charges. Let me just say, maybe watched a little.
Yeah.
Maybe watched a little.
You're on a watch list. You're not charged officially, but you've entered the watch list.
Investigation is open.
Yeah. All right, Duncan?
It's from Will Olson from PA. I had been seeing y'all's show in my recommended feed, so I decided to check you out and subscribed. You guys have filled the intellectual nostalgia gap from when I grew up carpooling in Delco Christian in PA.
Yeah. Nice.
A lot of the parents in our carpool played Rush for the 45-minute drive home. Anyway, I'm bad with names, but my favorite is the one of you that sounds like Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World. I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
Huh.
I'm not I didn't really get into Boy Meets World, so I don't know.
I think it's Duncan.
Topanga?
Right? My guess is Duncan.
Oh, Topanga. I do know Topanga.
You remember Topanga.
I do remember Topanga.
Delightful.
Uh-huh.
You've all made me consider Christie seriously as well after your interview the other day.
Well, this is the whole point is you're going to hear from all of them.
Yeah.
And if they float your boat, great. I mean, you're not going to get this kind of interview with any other program.
That's right.
And we're not throwing thumbs on the scale like other programs. We're just letting dudes be dudes and chicks be chicks and just letting it all out.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point is we let all the Republican candidates come on and sing for their supper, let the voters know where they stand on everything. And if your candidate hasn't been on the show yet, let them know you want them on.
I have one more 5-star I'd like to read here. And
this is become a new pattern.
No, this is from Michael Duncan, Old Man Dunks or Runks. And it says, Lee Wolf has done a great service to the variety program, putting in these new mic stands, which allow me to see all my friends.
Oh,
right? Another upgrade.
Oh, it's
another
a 5-star review from our old man in-house.
Yeah. Isn't this great?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
The Wolf has really got something going here. Wolf, can you hit your own button? I don't even know.
Hit your own button here.
Hit your own button.
It's a copyright song.
Oh, yeah.
We got to get like a wolf, like a
Dun
wolf.
dun
wolf sound.
But if you don't get the guitar, is it even worth playing?
Bow, 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 now.
But yeah, no, I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, we've got these new mic stands, which are more low profile, which allows us all to see each other a lot better. We don't have any of these huge arms all over us, which I think is great.
Just consistent upgrades.
It's consistent, dude.
It's just a thoughtful attention to detail that we get out of Wolf.
Yeah.
Pure variety.
They're
And
just
also
looking around, how can he improve the product?
That's another opportunity to remind our listeners who only listen to the podcast, subscribe on YouTube. Every show's now up there, plus extras that you can only get on YouTube.
We've got major cities in a doom loop. Even Wall Street is trimming fat to save their bacon, but not every investment is floundering right now. One of our longtime partners is actually thriving. That's right, because Masterworks now has 13 sales to date. That's 5 more sales just since we talked about them in December of last year. And like before, every single sale to date has handed back a net positive return to investors. That includes recent net returns of 10, 13, and even 35%. As of June 19, Masterworks has over 740,000 users, over $750 million invested. Masterworks has so much demand that their paintings can sell out in minutes. As a result, they have a wait list. But because we're longtime partners here at Ruthless, you're getting special access. Go to masterworks.com and use promo code Ruthless. That's promo code Ruthless at masterworks.com to join today. See important Regulation A disclosures at masterworks.com/CD. This is not investment advice. All right, let's get into the news a little bit. Yesterday, the Biden administration, unbelievably, is out selling Bidenomics. This is according to CNN. The White House is selling Bidenomics. Is anyone buying? I think we can rhetorically answer that now. But getting into the article, President Joe Biden's top economic advisors believe the worst effects of inflation are in the rearview mirror. They are increasingly confident that the economy is heading towards a soft landing, averting a recession. And a growing number of economists are beginning to agree. There's just one problem. Most Americans are convinced the economy is in bad shape, and they blame the president. Enter Bidenomics. This is what they've come up with? This is what they've come up with.
I mean, I think it's
Bidenomics. It's like, first of all, Bidenomics.
I mean, I think part of the problem is how can he have this economic plan, Bidenomics, when he had no plan? And I think the biggest problem that they're facing is they're saying that, top economic advisors in President Biden's team believe that the worst of inflation is behind us. The top economic advisors are the ones who told us that we're not having inflation.
Right.
Then they're saying it's transitory. Then they're saying now actually inflation is good. Like,
well, we're coming up on the 4th of July. You remember the last 4th of July when they're like, you're saving 4 cents on your hot dog.
Yeah.
Which is just
where's our pat on the back?
Yeah. Oh, and it was a lie too.
Yeah, right.
Not to mention.
Right.
But this is the quote that they've got. This is how they're pitching this thing. Bidenomics is rooted in the simple idea that we need to grow the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. Jesus, find me another. Not top down, reads the bolded section of the memo distributed by 2 of the president's senior advisors, Anita Dunn and Mike Donlin, earlier this week. Dunn and Donlin are messaging experts and not economists, is a telling sign that the origins of Bidenomics as partly a branding exercise.
Shit. And that's amazing because like this is from CNN. If CNN's like, this seems like messaging and not policy.
But also, look, I mean, as someone who's dabbled a toe in an economic messaging before, do you really want your economic plan intrinsically linked to the president with a 32% approval rating?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a tough sell.
I mean, that's why Obamacare became devastating.
Yep.
Is because Obama's numbers were in the tank and you just throw care on the end of it and it just became emblematic of the failures of the entire Obama administration. Well, here we go. They've done it again. Bidenomics. Unbelievable. Aides are hopeful a more concerted effort to convince the Americans of their economy's strength, and Biden's own role in managing it will improve his political standing. White House officials have begun preparing a more comprehensive economic messaging push for months, and the decision to launch now reflects the White House's settled confidence that the economy's positive trajectory is sustainable.
Yeah. You know what I love about this, and you guys know this more than I do because you're sort of the, comms and messaging gurus in the room. But whenever the policy isn't working and the results aren't happening, inevitably it always comes back on, we're just not getting the message out there.
Oh, totally.
Right? Well, and so now it falls back on you, or in this case, Anita Dunn and Mike Donilon, or whatever his name is. Donilon, to somehow, like, by alchemy.
Magic.
Like, make people believe something that they know isn't true.
You get some of that with Republicans.
Yeah.
You get a lot of it with Democrats because
Totally agree with this.
Because among Democrats, there is an assumption that the press will say whatever it is that they want them to say. Mm-hmm. And if things aren't going right, then the problem is the communications between them and the press because they're not flipping the right switches. And they know it's just a given. So like you constantly, if you're out there, you hear complaining about a communications problem, it's usually coming from the left side.
Right.
This is my favorite bullet of this. Though polls show Americans broadly support elements of the Biden's economic agenda, a point Dunn and Donilon made in their 3-point memo, a wide swath of Americans continue to widely disapprove of how he's handled the economy. 66%. I mean, again.
Sounds like it's time to hit the road and talk about your success.
Oh, man. It is just unbelievable.
I think we just got to get him out there in front of real people where he can explain in simple terms what he's done for them.
It's a communications problem. The press isn't saying enough good things about what Biden's doing.
People don't get it. You need a catchy slogan like Bidenomics.
and I think the main problem that they're facing is just the facts are not in their favor. I think you look at the numbers which have recently come out. Consumers, we've now have the highest amount of credit card debt in U.S. history.
Oh yeah,
consumers.
You've been on this for a long time.
The savings rate has hit now an all-time low. Any savings that individuals had accumulated over COVID, over the past couple of years, it's all basically been drained. The vast majority of Americans say they could not afford an emergency $200 cost over the course of a month. It's like the vast majority of the public is hanging on by a string.
Will you say that again? An emergency
$200 expense. The vast majority of Americans would not be able to afford that.
Oh, Bidenomics.
There are now.
It's a bumper sticker. You just look at it. It's Bidenomics. People are gonna love it.
The bumper sticker says "hanging by a thread."
And like close to a third of Americans are behind on at least one of their bills at this point.
Yeah.
Bidenomics.
And so, you have an extremely tenuous economic situation and in significant reason because of the policies that this administration did put forward. When you have inflation is the best way essentially it's designed when it's being put on by the Fed to drain cash out of the system, right? Mm-hmm. That includes people's savings accounts. Mm-hmm. So this is their policy is they want the consumers, the Americans to feel pain. Right, because a result of their inflation is like, oh shit, now we have to fix all the problems we created, and to try and message this as being a success is
it's not a problem, Smug. What you do is you get a bumper sticker. You put the president's name and the nomics behind it. Bidenomics.
Hanging
foolproof.
Hanging by one thread is better than hanging by zero threads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
76% of Americans, according to a recent CNN poll, describe this economy as in poor shape.
Yeah.
Now is a great time to roll out that Bidenomics, huh?
Yeah.
Let's just staple that to his ass as he's got a 32% approval rating. I mean, these guys, I feel bad because Biden obviously can't do anything for himself.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, we lead every show with what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he's getting advice like this.
Well, that's the fascinating thing. All the numbers that you read, like, if you were a normal person and you were looking at the state of our economy and you were running a presidential campaign, you wouldn't be like, I want to associate our candidate's name with this and be like, this is success.
Do you want to know what's going to happen? You know how this is going to end? this will be like a 3-week deal, maybe. By like mid-August and certainly by Labor Day, it's just going to be guns and abortion.
Guns and abortion.
It's just going to be, they're going to be like, you know what, that fucking sucked. But guns and abortion is all we're going
I think it's going to be more than that, dude. If something happens in our economy in a major way, or we do dip into a recession, I think he will then pivot again back to these MAGA extremist 4-star economy into the ditch. Like, that's what he's going to say.
100%.
With what? We haven't done anything.
It's never been real, so why would that stop him now?
Bidenomics was working until these House Republicans
Yeah, we were
came
so
in.
close. We were right there. We were going to be in a new golden age in America, and then these MAGA extremists stopped it.
In the media will just pretend that's the case.
Yeah.
This dude's got such huge problems.
One of my favorite parts of this story is when Karine Jean-Pierre was asked whether she thinks this will actually work. And she said, "We're going to try, right?"
Man.
We're going to give it a shot.
I don't know, but it's worth a shot, right?
What we've done is we put the president's name in front of the nomics, and then we're going to it's going to work.
Her job is literally to get up in front of a podium and put a brave face on for the administration every day, and she can't even be like, yeah, this is going to work.
Incredible.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So we always like to talk on Thursdays about who won the week. And there's a lot of things that happened this week. Obviously, we got the Trump audio from Iran. We have subsequent news on that. We had both DeSantis and Trump in New Hampshire at the same time. You had Christie popping from 0 to 7 in the polls, coming in third within 2 weeks of his announcement. Vivek out doing stuff. I mean, everybody was doing stuff. The question for all of us is like, who did the most and why we think they won the week. Let's start with Smash on the end.
I think the clear winner this week is Vivek. Because he finally received the affirmation he's been striving for this entire campaign. He was noticed by Donald Trump.
Oh, that's right. He was.
In New Hampshire, President Trump was quoted saying about Vivek, he's leading most of our candidates. And you know why? Because he says Donald Trump is one of the greatest presidents in the history of our country. Are you sure he's running against me?
I got to take a victory lap
He's
on
been
this.
listening to the variety program.
Sure
Donald Trump is on my talking points. And I do love that Trump gets up there and he's like, look at this great drawing by Vivek. You know what? I'm going to put it on the fridge. It's just
the old magnet on the fridge.
There's nothing more infantilizing that you could experience in politics than the guy you're running against being like, he loves me. He's doing a great job. Are you sure he's running against me?
It's incredible.
It's like the worst insult you could ever have.
Yeah.
I hate it too because he's from Cincinnati. But you know what? He won the week.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Duncan, what do you got?
I got Tim Scott. And I got Tim Scott for one specific reason, and that is, you know, the numbers we were talking about in the last show.
A very good, astute observation.
You know, I mean, there's a long tail to a lot of this stuff with the advertising. You don't see it necessarily pop immediately in the numbers, but the guy has raised a lot of money for his candidate campaign. He's spending that money on advertising, and I have to believe in a lot of these state polls that's going to start to pick up
because he has a 4-to-1, in some cases 5-to-1 advantage over all the candidates that are relying exclusively on their super PACs.
Right. And so
you're seeing 4 or 5 times more ads from Tim Scott with his message than you are anybody else in this race.
Which tells me it's a campaign that is doing the simple blocking and tackling you have to do to raise the money necessary to win. And
they came in with a lot too, though.
Right.
Remember.
Right. Look, I get it, but
that's preparation.
That's part of the job.
Yeah, it's preparation.
It's part of the job. So I got to give my hat tip to him on that.
I think that's that's a smart pick. Smug.
So I'm going to actually say 2 folks on this one. First,
you got to say one.
You got to say one.
All right, then I'll pick Tim Scott. I have to agree with Duncan on the points that he made, especially on how smart it is to have campaigns spending the money when you're buying airtime. You're getting far more for your buck than a super PAC. But also, I've gotten word from some folks I know in New York that he's been having some success up there with fundraising. A lot of folks are really digging that his message, and we're getting right to the time, at the end of June is when you're going to start getting the pressure force.
And he's different enough. He's separated himself from the crowd enough in his message that it is unique.
Yeah.
And if that actually hits with people, particularly in the donor community, you can see early momentum on it.
And these are like heavy hitters.
Yeah.
These are big time folks who can open up the checkbook big time, and we'll see how that goes.
What I really like about what he's doing is he's picked his own path and not allowed sort of the static reading of poll numbers dictate what it is that he says and does.
Yeah.
Look, it's unique. It may very well work out for him. Mine was DeSantis, and the reason it was DeSantis is because I think he finally settled in on a message that I think is probably the most powerful argument against Trump. And I mean, you've heard Christie do all these various things. He's been most pointed. But DeSantis has kind of moved around in his criticisms of Trump. In New Hampshire this week, he was basically saying, I went down to the border, and he did, and he spent time at the border, and it's a disaster. And former President Trump ran in 2016 on fixing the border. He had 4 years to try to do it. It's worse than it's ever been. Does that sound like success? And then, he keeps building blocks on that, like, eventually you get to the point where this is the guy you're going to hire to dismantle this deep state. Well, he's the one guy that's gotten run over flat on his back by the deep state over the last 6 years. So it's kind of like going to the record of Donald Trump rather than taking the media bait of just talking about the indictments or talking about the quote of the day or whatever name he's calling Ron DeSantis. Or he's settled into a very concrete criticism of Trump that I think for the first time starts to have some resonance. Now, whether he stays on it or not, I don't know, because this is the first week that he's done it, but that's why I gave him the winner of the week.
Interesting. Yeah, I like it.
Let's get into the Trump news, because I think this stuff is significant. Obviously, everybody heard the audio that came out that was listed in the indictment where he is talking to two biographers of Mark Meadows and a staffer or two in the room, and seemingly to suggest that he is showing them, over audio, it sounds like he's showing them documents he shouldn't be showing them, classified documents about who was really responsible for war plans in Iran. Because he, of course, had been blamed for wanting to take a significantly more aggressive step towards Iran than we ultimately did. And Milley said at one point that he had to talk him out of it. All that sounds like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of that stuff. There's nothing about Trump. It's like a warmonger, so I tend to believe him on that point of view.
Yeah.
But I will say it sounded pretty bad. It's a ruffling of papers. The bottom line is we don't know. He was intimating, if he didn't show somebody something, he's intimating that what he had ruffling around was some kind of classified document given to him by the Pentagon that would constitute a response plan or an attack plan against Iran.
So here's one question that I have, and I think this is a very important development in the story, but I don't understand why he's answering questions. Like, for example, in the interview he had with Semaphore that came out just last night, where he said, oh, it's not war plans, it's just newspaper articles and golf course. He said, building plans, I had plans of a golf course. Like that he's telling people that it wasn't Iran, it was a golf course plan. Like,
he had many papers.
But then he starts talking about how it was secret and the military gave him. You're not I mean, pin positions are usually kept pretty secret the night before a big tournament, but they're not classified.
Right.
A bunker like a green complex is not classified information.
Well,
I don't understand why he continues to answer these questions in such a way that puts himself in a difficult
So here's
position.
the thing is, so this is news from CBS Today. The Iran memo is not among the 31 records underlying charges in Trump federal indictment.
Yeah, so
it was all fake news.
Megan talked to us a little bit about this yesterday, which is they raided Mar-a-Lago and obtained a bunch of documents. And the charges are related to the documents in that and the obstruction of justice related to holding those documents after they were requested. This conversation happened at Bedminster. and there was no raid at Bedminster. Consequently, they've never obtained the Iran memo. The government doesn't have an Iran. If this exists, which we don't know, nobody knows. This is all just like,
and I think that's critical. Is
table talk.
That's the thing is, this, to our knowledge, we have no record of this existing. Yet this has become the heart of the conversation that Trump is a threat to national security. This is an outrage. How could he have this Iran attack plan? Someone present it. It says right here, according to a source familiar with the matter, Trump was not charged with unlawfully holding on to the Iran-related document discussed in the recording. So it's like the whole, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Show me the document.
Except the problem is it's not part of the 37 charges
Yeah.
that are against him, and that's what makes me.
But all we're hearing about in the news is, wow, Trump, it's a disgrace.
But we're hearing he does these interviews with
Right.
people, and he says these salacious
He just
things, and
can't
it makes
stop.
headlines. And it's my point is just he's his own worst enemy sometimes.
He is, and the only reason it's leading the news is because he's on tape saying this stuff, right? Like, I understand it's not part of the indictment here, but the on audio he says.
So then why is this
stuff? Like Donald Trump is the reason why it's in the news. It's nobody's fault but Donald Trump that it's in the news.
Why is the tape released if there's no evidence supporting it?
But this is there's a whole bunch of
it's
questions.
just to make Trump look bad.
No.
It's all just a setup. They want to win the case in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, of course.
Same way they did with Russiagate.
Of course it is. So you answer the question. That's not a part of the indictment. What are you talking about? You don't answer the question and say, "Oh, these are golf course plans."
Well, I mean, the one thing
he's his own worst enemy.
The Semaphore article you're talking about, Ashbrook, which I think was very interesting for one reason and one reason alone. And the title here was, it was bravado. Trump says he wasn't holding up classified documents in 2021 meeting. This is the first time for as undisciplined as Trump has been in this entire thing post-indictment, where he's talking to people and saying things he shouldn't say. And I can't believe his lawyers would allow him to do these things. I guess you can't stop him. But it's the first time I've seen Trump answer it in a lawyerly way. Like he's like I think this is Trump at his most discreet in describing things.
Well, that's not saying a whole lot.
I know.
I know. There are quotes in here that really complicate his case.
I know. I'm just saying what it seems to me is that it's clear to Donald Trump this is more real than a lot of the other things they've accused him of, because at no point during Russiagate did Donald Trump equivocate and say things in sort of half measure things, right? Like, this is the only time we've seen anything in which Donald Trump was like, oh no, I went too far. You know what I'm saying? And so that tells me that there's a little bit of a shift in his strategy, and we'll see what happens.
Well, what hasn't happened yet is any sort of noticeable change in the polls. I mean, the guy's lead is commanding, and it has been, and it's stayed that way. And maybe it shifts a little bit here and there over time. Maybe there are big moments. I would have thought an indictment might be one of them. But he's got some staying power right now. So
yeah. Well, look, I think, and I said this on Fox with Brett, who did probably the best interview with Trump on this topic. He benefits a great deal from the fact that Bragg brought that indictment before any of the rest of this, because that was such a laughable, clownish legal proceeding that people from throughout the ideological perspective were like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. You're going to indict a former president on like some niche issue related to a payment we've already litigated, and you've already thrown someone in jail. I mean, it's just like, that was absurd. So everybody sort of views any sort of indictment under the halo of not only that, but Russiagate, where they're just out to get him.
Right.
And again, when this surfaced, that the Iran document is not actually something that the feds have, it harkened back to the stories of Russiagate and the stories of, like, why is it in the indictment? So that's the thing that confuses me the most about this. Top page 3 of the indictment, bullet 1 is this exchange that was the audio. And yet it's not listed in any of the 37 counts against him.
Right.
Why is it in there?
I mean, I have no idea. This is just conjecture, but I think it establishes a fact pattern of Donald Trump mishandling classified material.
But they can't prove it, so they didn't charge it.
Is what they're trying to show, that knowledge and the intent to hide those documents in the obstruction component of the indictment. I would think.
Maybe it's to present to the external public the reason they were threatened, the reason
why they did the raid,
a problem, and that they did the raid. I don't know. Whatever it is,
I don't know.
But even that's tenuous, because if they felt it was such a imminent danger, then they would have raided Bedminster if that's where this was recorded and not Mar-a-Lago. This is 100% just to try and make Trump look bad. They want to set the pace of or set the message out of Trump is a danger to national security.
Look. I agree with you. They want to make Trump look bad, but Trump did that to himself.
It was bravado. It was just like I said.
Oh my
right
God,
off the bat,
dude!
It was 100% Trump bravado.
You listen to that audio and you think it looks good for Donald Trump.
Yeah,
you think it looks good for Donald
when
Trump.
you're hanging out with
that
friends, you'll say crazy shit.
No,
right?
no,
I hit 5 holes in one today golfing.
But what he's saying ultimately is that he was lying to the people in the room.
Yeah,
he was bullshitting. He was having a great time.
Yeah, I mean, but that's okay. I mean, if that's your thing. We got to do one more quick thing about stuff in the news here.
Okay.
This has been undercovered, as everything is undercovered. But the IRS whistleblower in the Hunter Biden probe says he was stopped from pursuing investigative leads into Dad or the big guy. This is according to CBS News. That's their headline. I actually can't, this is unbelievable. So IRS supervisory agent who helped oversee the investigation of Hunter Biden continues to raise questions about what he's alleged was special treatment in the probe against the president's son. Telling CBS News that dating back to the Trump administration, he was repeatedly prevented from taking steps he would have considered routine in other cases. So we had Grassley on like a year ago where he was saying this, that they had this whistleblower and that he was saying that he was repeatedly stopped from pursuing investigative leads. Then you had the Department of Justice and Merrick Garland saying the prosecutors had special prosecutorial jurisdiction, could have brought charges anywhere and they could have done anything. You have testimony from people saying that the prosecutor in this case said he was limited to Delaware in his jurisdiction. Both of those things cannot be true. And now an IRS supervisory agent saying he was stopped repeatedly from pursuing what he characterized as routine in other cases. Guys.
And this underscores what I've been saying for a very long time, is that this is not, the Hunter Biden case where, the left is trying to say, Hunter Biden's not the president. I didn't vote for Hunter Biden. This is a Joe Biden case. Joe Biden is clearly being shielded right here.
Yes.
And what we need to know is why. And I know why. It's because he's at the heart of all of this.
And I think these bureaucracies are irredeemable, whether you're looking at a place like the IRS or the DOJ and some of these FBI people. They're going to have to be cleared out. The deadwood needs to be scraped out from these institutions in this country if we want to restore trust. I mean, look, we were talking about on Megyn Kelly the other day about this. You're talking about basically he was a special counsel without the title, right? He could do whatever he wants, but what I thought was really interesting is that Jamie Comer, who's leading all of this on the government oversight committee for House Republicans, didn't want a special prosecutor in this case. And I think what he knew then is what we're finding out now, is that even if it did happen, it wouldn't have been fucking real in the first place, because these people want to put a thumb on the scale from the very beginning. And that our only way of really getting to the truth is a Congress, a House Republican majority, empowered to have subpoena power and investigate this on their own. That we cannot trust these unelected bureaucracies to do the real legwork, because they won't do it. We've seen it time and time again.
Yeah, and it's been going on for years. I mean, remember the Obama administration when the IRS went after these small businesses who were aligned with the Tea Party?
Yeah.
That was outrageous. So it's insidious inside of these organizations. You're exactly right. You have to have the oversight authority, but it's not limited to the bureaucracies. We have seen in the mainstream media, we talked about this before the show, NBC put whistleblower in scare quotes.
And the New York Times did too.
It's outrageous. This guy, here's this guy. I mean, he's showing more bravery than any two reporters that I've seen in either of those.
So just to pause that, because this is a really important point.
Yep.
They put the word whistleblower, which, by the way, we've passed federal legislation designating what a whistleblower is and is not. And a whistleblower is someone within an agency or an organization that is protected by law for providing real facts about something that they know that they could be punished by their employer for disclosing.
Yeah, like it's not a debatable thing. It's not something that you put in quotes. Like some people would characterize this person as a whistleblower. Others would say, what? What would they say? He's not a whistleblower? And it has a definition.
You know what? A DNC press release might put whistleblower in scare quotes, but news organizations never used to do that. They're still part of it.
Let me give you an example. I just searched New York Times, who does the quote whistleblower thing. Remember the Facebook whistleblower that we talked a lot about it?
Yep.
The first 4 things are headlines and stories with whistleblower no quotes.
Yeah.
Chuck Ross on Twitter did a great job. He pointed out like 50 instances where the New York Times, if it was against Trump, says, oh, this whistleblower did this, 0 quotes.
They're so
but
partisan.
in this instance, they're playing whistleblower to insinuate that like, oh, this so-called whistleblower.
Do you remember Vindeman?
Yeah.
Oh,
New York Times, whistleblower. No quotes.
Yeah.
No quotes. Kavanaugh, whistleblower.
Unreal.
No quotes.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Weird. That's a strange standard.
I wonder why half the country doesn't believe a single word they write.
Bingo.
Yeah.
You know, it is no mystery. It is no mystery. They have. You guys are going to give me shit for saying this. They have a lot of very talented people who work over there, and none of them are allowed to actually do their jobs the way that they should be done because the culture of these newsrooms is so fucking left wing that they can't even see straight.
It's partisan.
It is partisan. It is partisan.
They're campaign operatives is what they are.
Right.
If you can throw quotes over whistleblower in this context, but not in Kavanaugh's, not in Kavanaugh's.
Right. Where is the 60-year-old editor who just like somebody brings that to him and he just calls bullshit? Where is that person?
Where is that guy?
They're all gone. They gutted him. They all got chased out.
I mean, let me put a bow on the Hunter Biden thing. I think that this is a big problem, a very big problem for this administration. And, cynics and critics are going to say, like, well, there's no way they're ever going to prosecute. They may not prosecute, whatever. Jamie Comer's going to get to the bottom of this. Chuck Grassley's going to get to the bottom of this. The stuff like that WhatsApp message that came out where he's sitting there with the big guy trying to extort a foreign national out of their money. Like, there's only one of two things that it can be. Either he is extorting a foreign operative under false pretenses of his dad doing something officially to hurt him, or the big guy's in business with him. There's only two things that can be happening there. And then if you set that up against the backdrop of the president of the United States inviting Hunter to a state dinner with the prime minister of India, a guy who just pled guilty to tax fraud and federal gun charges, and with a WhatsApp message that sees that he's trying to extort foreign leaders for his own bank account using his dad's name.
And which guys, and 5 million arrived days later.
You don't have to, like, this is not being particularly partisan or particularly, like, there's no conspiratorial aspect to it. That combination of things cannot happen.
Yeah.
It cannot happen. And it almost doesn't matter if the big guy's in business with him or not. The fact is that he's perpetuating by allowing this guy to stick around. He's basically saying this stuff doesn't matter, as if he's not on audio tape saying that he's withheld Ukraine funding to fire a prosecutor who was investigating the board that his son sits on. He's on tape. Like, I mean, look, I'm not an FBI investigator, but these are a lot of facts out there. They're all sitting in one spot. They have a hell of a problem. Any fair-minded person, I don't care if you're a partisan Democrat, will say that that is a big, big, big issue. You got to figure out that piece of it. I think Comer and those guys, as much as they've been maligned in the mainstream press about chasing red herrings and everything else, they're getting to it.
It doesn't seem like a red herring here.
Not at all. Not at all. A very big deal. So, fellas, super gonorrhea is back.
Of course it is.
Well, Democrats are in charge once again.
We've talked about this, and I mean, I think we went back like OG with this, right?
I think it was the first year we were recording that this first like showed up as a thing.
Back when we had like our formulation for what the show actually was, always included some kind of a horny segment.
It was basically just like blackout. Those early episodes folks.
Yeah, if you want to go back and get super entertained, that those are the things. But we haven't lost our thread line here, and we cover the news as one does. From Archamax.com this time. I'm not sure if Archamax is anything like the DLBG.
GNYUZ, which is like some Romanian click farm.
Yeah, I don't know. And you know what's funny about this is McDaniel might have a Google alert for super gonorrhea.
He absolutely does.
He might.
All of these segments, anytime we get so much response, and people are like, "That's fucking insane." Because apparently it's like super resistant to like treatment.
If he does, I just hope he doesn't click each of the links. I sincerely hope he
Do not Google image search it.
Holmes, I tried to click on the link to Archamax.com and I got a privacy error from Google that your connection is not private.
Oh my God, I got it too.
That good.
Yeah.
Connection is not private.
Yeah.
You can't even get this stuff unless you're McDaniel.
Yeah.
So it's like a Romanian click farm again.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
Yeah, you got to download the Tor browser and go to the dark web to find the links that McDaniel puts in our document.
Do you think McDaniel is like an investor in super gonorrhea?
I don't know.
So he might be. So the news here is that the gonorrhea shot gets FDA fast track as resistant cases multiply. Because that's the thing. The reason it's called super gonorrhea is because there is essentially no treatment. It's like
gonorrhea, but super.
Forever.
Yeah.
It's like a death sentence, essentially.
But I mean, which is worse than most because the pain associated with urination.
I just remembered our original.
Yeah, when I told the story about my buddy. Yeah.
Go back and listen to it, folks.
Yeah, that was an eye opener for all of us. I think we all had a lot of education there about that one. This one, as he said, FDA's fast tracking. GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, for those who are unaware of the initials, experimental gonorrhea vaccine got a fast track designation from the U.S. regulators, putting the shot in position to become the first preventative for a common, often undetected infection that's gaining resistance and treatment. So, hold on. Only undetected in women, from what I understand. Now, I'm not a doctor, but like if a dude gets gonorrhea,
I would imagine they would know.
I'm told that this is, and as evidenced by the story that I had of my hunting buddy, you know it. And it's not going undetected.
So I think right here, for me, the entire story is right here. It says GSK's experimental vaccine got fast track designation from. Okay, I think this is a situation I'm weighing out. Super gonorrhea, experimental fast track vaccine.
I don't know, man. If you're like in that danger category,
but that's the thing is they're like, this is a preventative. So it's not like it's still not curing it. So if you have it, you're still completely screwed. This is preventative.
Which way do you go, Smug? If somebody were to ask you right now, vaccine, gonorrhea, which would you pick?
I'd love the conversation with your primary care provider where you have to walk in and be like, I think I'm in the risk category to get
I'm racking and stacking, doc. I gotta get this thing.
Yeah.
So are they gonna
line me up? What else you got?
Are they gonna start having like ads for this where they're like, talk to your doctor about this, and you'll be like, listen, I saw the ad doctor for gonorrhea. And I'm wondering if it might be right for me. The doctor's like, Jesus, bro.
Let's take it a step. Let's take it a step further. Let's say that you were at one of RFK's open town halls, and the opportunity to ask him a question came to you, and you said, "Mr. Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., should I take a vaccine for gonorrhea, or should I not take a vaccine? I know you're against vaccines. Should I not take the vaccine for gonorrhea?"
What do you think he'd say?
It's a great question. Do you know his family is not exactly...
they're in a danger zone.
We should have
from what I understand from the literature that's been provided.
We should have him on
and ask him that question
because, like, he's polling at like 30%. Would he get this shot? Number one, and also like I mean
you saw his bod.
That family
He's got that shirt off for a reason.
Yeah,
that family is generally not a fan of when there's like
is that too far?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if his family's... this might come, the whole like vaccine thing, from his family, just not a fan of when shots are going around. Mm. They haven't done well with that.
I mean, but Jesus. I saw his work.
That. My God. The guy just went book depository on a vaccine discussion.
He was president of the United States.
That is so disrespectful.
I mean, he's running for the record of being the first RFK to survive a presidential.
Oh
my God.
This is outrageous content.
It's true. It's
What's
true.
gotten into you?
It's true. I mean, that's it. I'm saying it takes a lot of courage for him because clearly it hasn't gone well so far.
I understand the guy doesn't like needles, but I saw him in his workout regimen, and I think he's putting something in his body.
Oh, you think he's juicing?
He's on trend.
There's not a 70-year-old man that looks like that. Let's be honest.
It's like Mark McGuire when he started hitting 70 home runs a year.
Yeah. I mean, and he's doing like 5 push-ups.
Allegedly. We don't know.
Allegedly, we're joking, haha, we're laughing, and it's a parody.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, the fact of the matter is you be coming to a drugstore near you.
Yeah.
Super Gone.
That'd be the good name for it. Get super gone. Nice and gone. One shot.
All right, let's do a game.
Let's do a game.
And as we know, we have a rotational basis, and so we have new competitors. I was the judge and jury for the very first time in this game, and I enjoyed the experience. I'd love to stay that way. I understand why it is that you tried to run a coup on us. I will respect the constitutional rules that Ruthless has set up, and I will walk away from power. Mm-hmm. And I will become a competitor as we have in our rotation.
And I was
the
bailiff.
George Washington of Ruthless.
Yes, exactly.
I was bailiff, so now I'm judge and jury.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I lost, so I'm bailiff.
So you're bailiff. Okay. So our defending.
So this is we're now back to the OG.
Yeah.
Configuration.
This is OG.
Oh yeah.
And so Smug, you have our defending champion, correct?
Steve Schmidt.
Who are you bringing to the table?
Brainworms.
Wow, Jen Rubin back on board. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. It's time for King of the Hill. In the red corner, fighting out of the Washington Post. The return of our queen, Jennifer Brainworms Rubin. And now, in the blue corner, fighting from his back porch in Utah, and current champion of the world, the old hat man, Steve Schmidt.
That's so brutal.
That's just so good.
That's so good.
I think it's my favorite.
That's just straight.
I think it's my favorite. War Now, War Forever is also good.
That one's great.
But this one, that's the old fat man.
Ashbrook like gives it a whole nother level.
Yeah, he gives it like the full diaphragm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so our defending champion, Smug, you've got Steve Schmidt. You have to go first.
Okay, so this is Steve Schmidt talking about his favorite topic, Donald Trump. Says, Donald Trump is a menace to the security of this country like no person who has lived since Charles Lindbergh, Robert Lee, and Jefferson Davis. Watch my full reaction to the leaked audio of Trump admitting he was in possession of classified documents. YouTube link.
That's his new bit, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to say something provocative and then watch
for
my
clout.
Watch my comments.
For clout, yeah.
Did you say Charles Lindbergh?
Charles Lindbergh, Robert Lee, and Jefferson Davis. Jefferson.
Okay. All right. I think this one's just a classic. She's responding to the stories, the never-ending pay-for-play stories about Supreme Court justices.
Okay.
As we've come to find out from the Alito op-ed, that's all left-wing dark money funded stuff. If blowback versus S-Court, SCT, Supreme Court, she can't say SCOTUS. Evidently, she's missed the fucking abbreviation that everybody in the English language uses. SCT.
Yeah.
Is getting. Let me just start. If blowback versus the Supreme Court is getting us less insane opinions, consider that a win for democracy.
Huh.
Democracy.
For democracy.
Consider it a win for democracy.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that because it's like It's like the ends justify the means sort of thing here. That's great. Smug, can I get one more reread of yours?
Absolutely. Donald Trump is a menace to the security of this country like no person who has lived since Charles Lindbergh, Robert Lee, and Jefferson Davis.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot.
Not since the spirit of St. Louis.
This lady is saying that a pay-to-play operation kicking up dust on Supreme Court justices is a win for democracy.
Right. Extorting the Supreme Court and trying to pressure them into making decisions you like is good for democracy. Like, that's what our founders envisioned.
Yeah, not the democracy that we actually set up that allowed them to be nominated and confirmed.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, this is tough. These are two very divergent takes. Because one is just hot fire on the brainworms, and one requires a little more something. Gosh, man, this is a real jump ball. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, comparing Donald Trump to Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee is just, it's too much to overcome. And for that reason, Smug wins round one.
All right. So for round two, I'm actually going to try to fight on Jen's own turf.
Wait. You're going to go first?
Your Honor.
Why would?
Wow.
Hold on.
Bailiff. Get
Do we
this
have a
court in order.
Do we have an impartial court? Do we have it? He was about to volunteer his own thing, and we've intervened.
Nope, my mistake.
Your Honor, it's
round two is for
challenger's term.
Okay.
My mistake.
He
Go right ahead.
seemed like he wanted to take it upon himself.
Floor is yours.
I'm not going to have counsel be questioning the order of this court.
Well, we'll see what happens. What comes around goes around now, doesn't it? All right, I feel like I got a great one here. This is Seth Abramson, just a noted left-wing Twitter troll, who writes a tweet, retweet if you consider Representative Adam Schiff an American hero.
Tight. Oh, yeah, and she RT'd it.
Just a straight
RT.
A straight RT.
Yeah.
Just a compliant.
This is like 2010 Twitter.
A compliant RT.
Yeah.
No commentary. And I looked north and south to see if she had any more to say. Nope. Just following orders, ma'am.
And that's why
An American hero he is.
That's why I'd say, like, what's the point if it's just that's Seth Abramson content? Not
No.
Jen's. But I will go ahead and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Is that that's it?
Yeah.
So now this is Steve Schmidt talking SCOTUS. He says, what Alito did is get out ahead of the story by going to the Wall Street Journal, which is, of course, owned by News Corp, which owns Fox News, which just had to write a check for nearly $1 billion for lying. More on the fallout from the incredible ProPublica reporting. And the significance of this is there was outrage among the left because Alito decided he wasn't going to let himself be smeared.
Right.
He saw what was done to Kavanaugh. He sees what they're still trying to do to Justice Thomas. He sees, I mean, the left-wing mob has besieged literally the homes of every conservative justice now for over a year. And so he said, before I let someone lie about me, I'm going to answer all the questions that they tried bringing up. And the left is like, how dare you not let us attack you and besmirch your name?
I listen, I get it. It's a pretty straightforward take. I don't want us to lose the context.
I think I'm going to have to go to the judge's chambers here with the bailiff and sidebar this for a second. I don't think we've had a competitor in this game play a straight RT before.
Oh, groundbreaker.
Do you think that actually qualifies in the game?
Whoa.
It's a good question.
Whoa.
It's a good question.
Your Honor, I do.
Okay.
I don't think it's been played before, but I do think it qualifies because it shows the lunacy of the person.
But retweets aren't endorsements.
It's a
Without a
compliant
quote retweet, adding their own content.
I'm sorry. Can we clarify something? Is there a statement in the Queen's bio in her Twitter handle that retweets are not in fact endorsements?
I don't know. You want me to go ahead?
I'll check that as an officer of the court.
That's just like a natural law. Like John Locke knows.
Some people tweet, some people write that, some people don't. Okay, I see Her bio, what she presents to the world is about her. The first thing she says is never Trump, comma, pro-democracy opinion writer at Washington Post, MSNBC contributor, quote, but at any rate, I came for ice cream, close quote, and podcast.apple.us.podc. No sign of retweets are not endorsements.
Retweet. It says retweet if you consider Adam Schiff an American hero.
And again,
everything we've learned about Adam Schiff.
Zero Jen Rubin content.
Yeah, but you know what?
Compliance.
You knew the judge and jury this week, and you know the way I view uses of the internet.
I've used it.
And I wanted to check with bailiff to make sure I could accept this as it is written, and now that I can say you win round 2.
I appreciate that. I find it amazing that you just compliantly retweet.
It really is like, it harkens back to an early day of Twitter where people actually said, RT if you agree.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, and this is a very late-breaking hot tweet from Steve Schmidt.
Oh, wow.
It's among my favorite genre of like lunatic, never Trump, walls are closing in genre. Trump, like all of his predecessors, will finish the story alone and broken. It will all fall down quickly at the end, and make no mistake, it is beginning. And he also attaches a photo of Nazis.
Wait, so when he's saying his predecessors, he's saying Nazis?
Yes, and he attaches a photo of Nazis. It's like, also Nazis.
Holmes, the floor is yours.
Jennifer Rubin, statement of fact, not RTing anything. I've never seen at VP Kamala Harris so relaxed and speak so confidently, powerfully, as she did in North Carolina today. She talked about abortion. She did a speech just on abortion, of which they tried to pitch that she was speaking confidently and powerfully. CNN dutifully wrote up basically the same thing, saying that she had found her voice.
So I think, like round 1, these are two very divergent takes. What I appreciate about the Kamala thing is it's part of this larger charm offensive that's going on in Democrat politics right now. You've got Emily's List out there running ads for Kamala Harris, the fact that she's the least popular vice president in American history.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to
campaign. They've
work
set
this campaign
process.
And I also miss the days of when Ron Klain was chief of staff and they were parallel all day, right? Like, she was dutifully doing the talking points every single day.
Yeah.
So that's what I really appreciate about this. With the Steve Schmidt thing, it is...
Walls are closing.
Yeah, it's something. I guess my hesitation is it feels like it seems like the sort of normal churn of his account, of the normal sort of thing that he sort of click farms for engagement for this sort of shock value. And I think with the Jennifer Rubin thing, the tweet tells us more about so much else, and that's what I like about it more than Steve Schmidt. And for that reason, Jen Rubin, our new queen once again.
Well decided, queen once again. That's the beauty. You cut to the core of it. The fact that it was the reason I mentioned the CNN piece, there was a campaign to all write the same thing.
Right.
And like, there's nobody in the history of the world who would say that she has ever spoken confidently and powerfully.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, there are a few people who are shameless enough to carry that water at this moment. And that's why I thought it was more impressive than the Schmidt take. Because like, only Jen would go to the mattresses for you on something so patently absurd.
Well, that was a robbery. I mean, guess you don't need your own content now. All right. Good stuff.
A robbery.
A robbery.
But at least I'm judged next time, so I can actually bring some justice to this.
I love it.
Smug, you're bailiff next time.
I'll still bring justice.
Can I? When do I get to be bailiff? This is outrageous. I've never been bailiff.
If Jen loses next time, then the following week you're bailiff.
Did we start? Okay, so I go to bailiff?
Yeah.
Once you lose.
Lose, bailiff.
So Smug is bailiff, not judge next time.
Yes, Smug is bailiff.
I'm going to operate as a judge.
But I'm confident.
You have, actually, and your bailiff duty.
Yeah, I'm confident that
I will.
This bailiff will.
You're not going to like it. All right, let's go to this interview. Neil Chatterjee. I want to welcome to the program an old friend. Someone we've known for a lot of years. You've known him for a very long time.
Yeah, we've known each other for like 20 years. We worked together on the House side.
Yes, sir.
He's a distinguished former chairman of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. That's a lot of words.
The FERC. What the FERC?
Yeah, what the FERC. So he knows a lot about a lot of stuff. Neil Chatterjee, welcome to the program.
Longtime friend and fan. Thank you for having me.
You got it, buddy. Listen, I know we've been trying to do this for a while. We have a lot of interest in your area of expertise because it seems like this administration can find just about any way to fuck up a two-car parade when it comes to energy. I want to start with some substance and then I want to go from there. But the first thing I got to talk about is you've brought us bourbon.
I have. Well, I noticed last week you had the judge on.
Yeah.
Also for a proud Kentuckian, and he brought you, a new product from Boone County.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge it until I try it.
You haven't tried it yet and you're already talking smack about it?
Well, I mean, come on. We're talking about, you and I had the great pleasure of recently dipping bottles of Maker's Mark.
Yes.
A distinguished Jim Beam product. And my dear friend, Brent Elliott, who I've been friends with since college, is the master distiller at Four Roses.
Ah.
And these are established companies that have been at this for some time. And so I'm not saying that the newbies...
He is throwing shade.
I'm not saying the newbies in Boone County don't make a fine product. I spent...
You love all
years
of your
in Northern
bourbons.
Kentucky. I love all of my bourbons. But this Four Roses single barrel in particular that my friend Brent Elliott produces is my favorite. And it's so good. You got a lot of folks up here in D.C. who like to put themselves out as bourbon aficionados.
Yeah, you notice that?
I have picked up on that.
Yeah.
And so I actually have an empty bottle of 23-year Pappy that I routinely refill with Four Roses single barrel. Really? And I serve to these purported bourbon aficionados. They have no idea that they're drinking Four Roses single barrel. They all just sit there and smell and look at the lines. And
plus they think, what a generous man.
What a generous man.
He
always pours his 23-year Pappy every time.
Where does this guy have the resources? That's amazing. So
yeah.
You can't, all right. Well,
it's pretty good stuff.
This is
23-year Pappy.
It is actually very good. It is very good. So that your deal now? You're a Four Roses guy?
So
you'll drink
very loyal.
You'll drink backwater. Yeah.
Yes, I love Jim Beam products, Knob Creek, all of them. But I have to give a particular shout out to the folks at Four Roses.
I love it. Okay. All right. Well, that's a nice way to start. Thank you for the offering.
Of course.
So let's start with some stuff. I'm concerned about a whole range of energy issues as it relates to this administration because I think they're entirely ideological in their approach, not practical in their approach. I think the consumer and the American citizen is sort of last in line in terms of the concerns that they have. It's like the extreme environmental left first, and then it runs through a list of constituencies in like solar and wind and whatever, whoever is the the major constituency of the Democratic Party, as we saw over the years. And then at the very end, if it gets to us, okay, you can have your lights turned on. What's your biggest fear of what's going on domestically first with energy in this country?
So in the role I served at the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I felt it was my foremost obligation to oversee the reliability of the grid. What does that mean? It seems like an innocuous term. It's really important. It's to make sure that when Americans hit the switch, the lights come on.
That seems pretty important.
Pretty important. When there's triple-digit heat in Texas today, that the AC can come on.
Right.
And so...
Which has been a bit of a trick.
It has been a bit of a trick. And there's a lot that goes into that simple process of hitting the switch and the lights coming on that Americans take for granted. And what has happened over the years is that as politics has infected something that used to be a matter of engineering, you now have elected officials making decisions that the professionals used to make.
Interesting.
And so what they're doing is they're shutting off their disfavored forms of generation in favor of their preferential forms of generation. And sometimes those backups aren't ready to go.
You're kidding.
When it's time for the coach to need them. And that's what's happened the last couple of years. In California, you saw their grid got pushed to the brink by extreme heat and wildfires. They had made political decisions to retire a number of gas plants, and they didn't have the balancing resources ready to go. And so when they needed the energy, they didn't have it. The end result was rolling blackouts and brownouts or curtailments. And they made it seem like, electricity curtailment, it's no big deal.
What does that mean? What's a curtailment?
Pre-cool your house to 78 degrees, but no cooler. That may sound eminently reasonable.
No, it's not.
Not when it's 98 degrees outside.
It's not ever reasonable.
It's the United States of America. We should not be in a position that we're making these kinds of trade-offs. And that is 100% the result of politicians interfering with a process that used to be left to engineers.
So
but you were saying that this is something that could even happen this summer, like in Texas and California again, right? I mean, is that a real threat?
Absolutely. Texas, California, the Midwest went through this last year. In California, the last couple of summers, the only thing that has kept that grid from just catastrophic failure is luck. And luck's not an energy policy. And they're going to continually be in this position. The one thing that the governor had to reverse course on was he was prepared to shut down the state's last nuclear power plant.
This is Governor of California.
This is the governor of California.
Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom.
This guy's got it all put together.
He was going to shut down the state's last nuclear plant in the face of opposition to nuclear. Our FYI, a single greatest source of carbon-free generation.
Right.
But Californians are against it. And he had to reverse course because he realized if he took all of that power from that nuclear plant off of the grid, there was no way he would have enough replacement capacity and California would have been in a dire situation. They're still in a dire situation this summer because of a series of other decisions that they have been making. And it's spreading across the country. And you saw it.
So they take perfectly good nuclear, natural gas producing plants off the grid because they're politically disfavored in the Democratic Party, essentially.
That's right.
Wow. I mean, I just can't. There's hardly anything I can think of that is more politically palpable than the idea of if I got a letter in the mail saying that my house had to be 78 degrees tomorrow, I mean, sign me up for the riot. Sign me up.
Right, it's completely irresponsible. I mean, it's completely irresponsible. It's not just summers in Texas and California and the Midwest, but it's winters in the Northeast. They're having these problems up there too, right?
Yeah, it's even worse in the Northeast in those cold winters. We have all of this natural gas in Pennsylvania that could easily be piped into the Northeast to give them that reliable, affordable, inexpensive supply of energy for their electricity and to heat their homes via natural gas through those really cold winters. Get this, there were 2 successive winters during my tenure at FERC when we had Russian tankers pulling into Boston Harbor to deliver gas because we can't get a pipeline built through New York State. Think about that. New York is blocking the Northeast from getting access to all of this domestically produced gas in Pennsylvania. And instead, we've got Russian LNG coming into Boston Harbor to keep the heat on in a deeply cold winter.
I don't think people know that.
It's not widely known. I've tried, trust me.
It wasn't on the front page of the New York Times.
Well, you don't think they wrote about that?
I don't remember seeing it on broadcast news either.
Oh, jeez. I mean, how did they miss that? It seems like kind of a big development. Russian ships sitting out in New York Harbor.
I think they had an anonymous whistleblower that said
quote unquote,
quote unquote, and it was an Axios, and
that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
What are they gonna do?
I'm joking. Of course, it wasn't an Axios. That was a favor. That was a story that didn't favor the Biden administration. They wouldn't cover that.
I mean, I literally can't even imagine a situation where people make decisions against domestic resources of energy to the disadvantage of their own citizens on purpose. I mean, it has become environmentalism has become a religion on the left where you just have to believe. It's not about actually trying to do something. You just have to believe something and it'll become true. It's incredible because you're one of the more reasonable people that I've talked to about an all of the above. You know, you're not like a just oil and gas guy or just a coal guy or just you've always been sort of in the all of the above and try to reduce carbon emissions where you can and all that kind of thing. And a pretty reasonable approach. And yet you got to just run up against a brick wall with some of these people.
It's so frustrating, but in some ways it's been gratifying to me because some of these folks have given away the game in recent months and years. There's a technology called carbon capture and sequestration.
Yeah.
When I was an aide in the Senate, Senator McConnell, he led the charge on this tax credit, 45Q, to really incentivize this technology. And now we're at a point where it could actually work to reduce carbon emissions from gas plants, from liquefied natural gas export facilities, and the like. And suddenly, folks on the radical left are mobilizing against this technology because they're recognizing if it actually works, we'll have gas forever. We'll have coal forever because we'll be able to capture the emissions. If they're true,
no problem with the environment. That's not like actually not the issue.
If the issue was really climate change, why wouldn't they want this technology to succeed? They should want it.
You'd also want nuclear.
And you'd also want nuclear because it's not about climate change. It's about social engineering. It's about destroying fossil fuels. And that's the frustration. So a guy like me who's out there saying, hey, we can have wind, we can have solar, we should focus on reducing carbon emissions, but let's not sacrifice energy security and reliability and affordability to get it. It just makes me insane when folks oppose things that they claim they're for, because it gives away that their true agenda is not actually about reducing carbon emissions. If it was, they would absolutely embrace these.
And ultimately, the thing that boils my blood the most is the idea that somehow there's a disconnection between energy security and national security, and that you can have a country that is reliant upon China, Russia, the Middle East, all because we want to shut our own resources down.
I mean, the war in Ukraine is essentially an energy-driven war. Europe writ large, but Germany in particular, made a series of energy policy decisions that made them uniquely vulnerable to Russia. After the Fukushima disaster in Japan, Germany moved away from nuclear power. In order to meet their carbon goals, they moved away from coal. And they found themselves, therefore, totally dependent on Russian gas. And I think Putin recognized that while he gets his economic strength from oil sales, he gets his political dominance, his political strength, because he controls the gas taps. And I think he was banking on the fact that Europe writ large, and Germany in particular, would be so dependent on that cheap Russian gas that ultimately over the course of time, their support for Ukraine would wane because they would desperately need that gas. And I don't ever want to find ourselves in that situation here, but more so, what was really frustrating to me, back when I was at FERC, then Secretary Rick Perry, who was the energy secretary, he and I got made fun of because he made this very folksy term. He referred to U.S. LNG as freedom gas. And I supported him on it, and people mocked us for it. And what was so frustrating to me then, and even more so today, if you look at U.S. LNG exports, not only does it create jobs here at home, not only is it so valuable geopolitically to give our allies an alternative to Russian gas, clean U.S. LNG, because we do it cleaner and better than anywhere else in the world, displacing dirtier Russian gas actually lowers carbon emissions. It is a win-win-win for America, and it took Russia invading Ukraine for the administration to wake up and realize that, because prior to that moment, they had been moving away from gas, away from gas exports.
And I mean, to your point that you made earlier, it's not about climate change. It's not about the environment. It's about power. And I often wonder, who are they trying to empower? What is it that who actually gets the power when we lose? And you start reading these stories about how much technology is in China and how much we're reliant on China for batteries, for electric vehicles, and for their resources that we just don't have in this country. And you start to wonder, like, why in the world would why would our government push for policies that would empower China over America?
I mean, and that's the direction we're headed. Let's be clear. If we continue down this trajectory of shutting down traditional forms of power that are supplied by domestic resources, today, the entire supply chain and mineral chain for the clean energy transition lies in adversarial countries. And one thing that Germany realized, and Japan as well, when they moved away from nuclear power, is when you shut these plants down, you can't like just reopen them a couple years later when you realize you need them. They get chopped up, their component parts get sold off, they're gone. And so if we shutter our traditional fleet of plants and suddenly are dependent on the Chinese Communist Party for the components for clean energy technologies or the critical minerals that undergird them, then we're going to find ourselves in the exact same situation that Germany is in. But to the same point I made earlier about, I think it's a huge mistake to politicize electric vehicles because you want Republicans to want to buy electric vehicles. I think one of the individuals that I hold most responsible for the politicization of energy in this country is Tom Steyer, who ironically was a guy who used to be invested in coal. He was the one that really injected politics into clean energy and sort of created this paradigm where if you're for clean energy, you're of the political left, and if you're for fossil fuels, you're of the political right. And again, I think that was a huge mistake because you ended up taking issues that could have garnered bipartisan support.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back in our day, Lamar Alexander was a big fan of electric vehicles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was part of the energy
Find
plan.
more, use less was his brilliant, kind of slogan.
Right.
You had a lot of Republicans, Cory Gardner, who we all loved, of Colorado. There's a lot of wind and solar in Colorado. There's a lot of wind in the Dakotas, in Wyoming. I mean, there's huge potential opportunity for renewable energy in these states, but it's become so political that folks are now resistant to that. And I think that's because a lot of these environmental groups, clean energy groups, they intentionally politicize these issues. The example for me that I had it, a good friend of mine, Carlos Curbelo, Republican congressman from Florida, he was the leading champion in the House as a Republican for doing something about climate change. He had an opponent in a tough re-election year. All the environmental groups backed his Democratic opponent.
Yeah, it's just partisan.
Because of his position on healthcare, on Obamacare.
Yeah.
If you actually care about doing something about environmental policy in this country, to not support the leading environmental Republican because of his position on healthcare,
Wild.
I mean, that's just, we've seen everything with the left. It's not, you can say you're interested in energy, but if something on abortion comes along, you're in. I mean, they're partisan is what they are. They're not outcome driven. There's a bunch of things that you just suggested that they opposed that would have been outcome driven in terms of what they say they're for, and they don't, which is amazing to me. But the underlying thing, whether it's what you're talking about with the grid or whether it's shutting down certain kinds of unpreferred methods of power or electric vehicles, we now see the EPA with a new mandate potentially next year saying like 70% of all new cars need to be electric. There's no way to get there without outsourcing every component to China, because, I mean, it just doesn't work that way. So why is it that every single one of these things that we've talked about means that America has to be relying on somebody else in the world, and in most cases, an adversary?
I mean, it goes
Does
beyond.
that even cross their mind when you're talking to them?
No, because they want to be able to wave the flag and say they have an outcome. All of these policies today designed to stimulate the deployment of electric vehicles, they're all geared around the sale of electric vehicles, but not the actual use of electric vehicles. Like, sure, you get a big tax incentive. You may therefore be able to better afford an electric vehicle. But let's say you want to take a long distance trip in Kentucky, where I'm from. Where are you going to recharge? How are you going to overcome your range anxiety? What if you don't live in a home with a garage where you can plug in, or you don't work in an office that has vehicle charging available? What if there aren't fast chargers in your community? Where the heck are you going to plug these things in? we don't have the infrastructure in place today to move to that EV economy. There's no coordination with utilities to see if they can even withstand the surge in demand that would occur if all of a sudden by 2030 we had 100% EVs. It's just not realistic, but it's because they want to get the bumper sticker out there and appeal to their base, and the Democratic Party can say, look, we're doing something to electrify America and shut down these
how do they
dirty
think
cars.
you get the electricity?
Well, they're missing the fact that in most of the country today, renewables are like 10% of the generation mix. Like, what do they think is powering these cars?
It's incredible, man. Listen, I could learn a lot from you about all of these issues. You are one of the best voices in reasonably talking us through it. How your cat's looking? I'm hearing a lot of bad things, bud.
Look,
I'm hearing a lot of bad things.
It's what are you reading, Axios?
I just, I mean, like
they're gonna be just fine.
They're saying there's big problems with Calipari and the AD, and they're saying, I don't know.
Look,
what do I believe? What do you believe?
Expectations are so high in Kentucky year over year that it's hard to meet those expectations. And the reality is Cal's had a couple of tough runs. He had an undefeated team that got tripped up in the final couple of minutes. He had Devin Booker on the bench inexplicably, and they lost to Wisconsin in the Final Four. They got beat, buzzer beater in 2017 to go to the Final Four, overtime in 2019 to go to the Final Four. I think he had the best team in the country in 2020, and COVID struck. And look, he's had a hard time since the pandemic because he relies on new players every year.
And everybody else is getting
fifth years and in the portal. He's got an incredible class coming in. And I think the pieces are there. They'll start off slow again because anytime you're rolling out a bunch
you go
of
down there and cross them all up when you every fall.
So in the summers when they're not fully acclimated yet. Cal does this amazing father-son camp, and I keep telling him, Cal, I'm not eligible to be recruited.
Well, I mean, it's not going to stop.
No, but I mean, he says he hasn't seen a round mound of rebounds since Barkley, like me. I mean, I can now, mind you, I'm playing at my kid's grade level, and it's been a few years since beginning. I don't even think I could take
nobody
my kids
boxes
anymore.
out.
Nobody boxes out.
Nobody.
I think they'll be just fine. I think actually they'll be better than just fine. I think they're going to be very good this year, and this is the year they silence the doubters.
Oh, they say that's a very optimistic take. I like it.
Realistic.
What are you doing to get yourself in trouble? I know there's got to be a lot of things. I saw you down at the Derby.
Yeah, I won no money.
Yeah, I know, and usually you have a whole wad.
That didn't help. No, listen, I've been pretty busy lately. My kids are thriving. So my eldest son is like a track star, theater star. My middle son is getting ready to play high school football. My daughter's playing soccer. So
they're not inexplicably ashamed of their father.
Well, they're getting to that point.
Okay.
They're getting to that point.
I see them take pictures with you, though.
They stopped a little bit. Now, you'll appreciate this. So my eldest son, when he first stopped calling me daddy in public and started calling me dad, I was gutted. Gutted. I mean, it hurt so bad. My middle son very quickly thereafter followed his brother and started calling me dad. My 11-year-old daughter skipped it completely. She calls me Neil.
No.
And so, I'll be at school. She's like, Neil, are you picking me up for soccer later? And she's 11.
You can't have it.
I'm toast.
You can't have it.
So that's the trouble. That's the trouble I get.
Well, you got a real problem if in a few years she brings somebody home and they call you Neil. That's when you need to put him down.
That's when I'm going to break out the coal-fired pizza oven.
I love it. Well,
before we get to these three questions, can I ask him one?
I've
got one very important question that I've actually been wondering about for quite some time. Neil, we've become something of an animal fighting podcast.
Yeah.
And you were talking about renewable resources. The fellas think one of the most undertapped renewable resources on this planet is whale oil.
Yeah.
And there's just all these pods of killer whales.
You've been following the whale.
I have.
Incursion.
All these pods of killer whales that are taking.
Wait, I thought they were called orcas.
Yeah, well, that's what they want. That's what their press secretary wants you to call them.
Yeah.
But we know they have teeth. They kill people. They kill things. Well, no documented human murders.
They've sunk boats all over the place.
Yeah, they're bad. So our question for you is, thinking of all the animals out there, what is the biggest that you could take mano a mano?
Mano a mano. I've always thought this, and this may not seem that impressive, but hear me out on my logic here. I have successfully taken out a bee. And pound for pound, a bee is the most intimidating creature on the planet. Pound for pound. I have seen entire classrooms completely evacuated because of a single bee. So pound for pound, I think they're the deadliest creature on the planet, and I have successfully killed many bees.
What a great answer.
I think you can get that done. I mean, Christy said he'd take out a timber wolf, and I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But I think you could get that one done.
I can.
Oh, that's well done. Could we feel like, I don't know, Maine winter with whales?
Yeah, no.
Is it worth trying?
Definitely not. Not if we care about reliability and affordability. Let's not be like the Democrats, Josh.
Yeah. Well, all you need to do is plug the hole.
It's a simple solution.
You just plug the hole.
We learned that from Costanza, though.
Yeah, right.
Pull that golf ball right out.
And then there it is. All right. You want your 3 questions?
Let's do it.
Last meal on earth.
So I would have said a New York pizza, but I don't want anyone getting arrested feeding me. And oh my God! And you did have the judge on from Northern Kentucky last week, and he stole a lot of my Kentucky and Cincinnati area favorites, and so I'm all about original content here on the program.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You're thoughtful of not only us but our listeners.
Yes. So you and I, Josh, have on occasion frequented a place in DC called the 116 Club. First rule of the 116 Club is you don't speak about the 116 Club. So I'm in the process of getting kicked out.
So doing this
right
on
now.
the air means you're definitely out.
But they make a dish there. Their signature dish is a crab and crab.
Oh, it's good.
And if I'm going out on a 116 crab and crab.
It is very good. You've never seen a more exclusive place that looks dumpier than the 116.
I think the one article that was ever written about it described the decor as 70s attic.
70s attic is very good. And I would just say an attic that you've ignored since the 70s.
Right.
Yeah. No, look, I got it. What are you going to do for a drink there? What do you like? You can add.
Oh, at 116 Club?
Yeah. What you're going to do? I don't even know if you can get a drink. I mean, I know they've got like bottles.
There's a lot of dust. There's a lot of dust.
I never wanted to do that. But like in your last meal,
you gotta go bourbon.
Yeah.
Especially with the crab and crab.
Yeah.
I think I love a good Camus, a good red wine, but not with a crab.
You can have all of it.
I mean, I'm gonna die, right?
So,
yeah.
So you could do whatever. Okay. Is there a dessert option? Not a big dessert guy.
So the judge stole it, man. That Grater's ice cream from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Ashbrook knows it. It's got my heart.
Well, you can't cut such a slim figure like yours with being a big dessert guy. So I get it.
I've had a few.
Grater's is good. Grater's is good. All right. So second, if you never get into this line of work at all, no public service, no politics, blue sky, you can do anything with it. What would you do?
So I've always thought my two loves in life were sports and politics. Obviously, I went into work in politics, and my athletic career stalled out in the 8th grade when I stopped growing. I did not have the same genetic good fortune as Smug, who is the Yao Ming of Indians. I've never seen an Indian.
I've never seen an Indian that big. It's really remarkable, isn't it?
So noting that athletics would be off the table for me, I honestly think so. When you're born like this, and you're funny looking to begin with, the only way to survive it is to be funny.
Yeah.
And so I as I look back, and I still may pursue it at some point, I'd love to try stand-up. I'm actually going to take some lessons, learn how to write jokes. I'd love to. I still haven't given up the dream of potentially pursuing stand-up someday.
Listen, if you can perfect that, you can have like a regular reoccurring bit here on the program.
All right.
Come on in and just bust people's balls. I love that idea. Yeah. That's fantastic. Now, you're a funny man. That's a good fit. All right, third question. You know what it is. Thrill of victory, agony of defeat.
I'm all agony of defeat.
Yeah, that's
all
very
agony
clear.
of defeat.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've been very fortunate. Again, when you look like this, to rise to the points in life that I have, that's taken a inexplicable string of wins to get there. And to be honest, one of the things I learned from a gentleman that we all work closely with, Leader McConnell, is You win and you move on to the next one right away. Like there's no attaboys, there's no time for celebrations. It's okay, good job. What's next?
Yeah, it's true.
And so I've always been driven by that. It's that agony of defeat. It eats at you. And look, I felt it a little bit. Like I was very proud of my record at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, but elections have consequences. And one of the painful things for me to have watched the past couple of years is hard-fought victories got reversed. And that agony of defeat is what wants to drive me to win again and amend it.
I love that. That's great stuff. Neil, where can people follow along with your work?
I'm pretty active on Twitter at Ferk Chatterjee, FERCHATTERJEE. I've been fortunate enough. Ashley's here today. She gets me booked on a lot of TV, and so
you're on the tube quite a bit.
I'm on the tube quite a bit.
You're defying all odds on television.
It's unbelievable.
She must be just absolutely terrific.
She's that good.
She must be that good. This is what I got for you, and they're like, okay.
Well, my kids have pointed out to me that oftentimes I'm talking, but they don't have my face on screen. They're going to other visuals.
Wolf, can you keep that in mind when we put this out? I mean, we're a video medium now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fantastic. I look great in the camera. It's unbelievable. I don't know what. This stuff must be expensive. You guys are doing really
doesn't
well.
pay for itself. It doesn't pay for itself. Listen, buddy, I want you to stick around anytime you want to come in and talk about something that you think is out there and outrageous. We'd love to talk to you about it. You're one of a kind. We appreciate your friendship. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, like, Neil's a world-class individual. We talked serious stuff for a little bit. We got into some fun. I don't feel like it paints a full picture of this guy as a character. If you've seen this guy after 10 o'clock p.m., what a time you will have.
He's a great guy.
What a time you will have. He's the kind of guy that, like, you want to be the last guy at your party.
Excellent.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, those are the folks you want around.
Yeah, they really are. And we did enforce the one Indian rule this time. So I appreciate your adherence.
But, I think we did it.
I think we did it.
It's a wrap on that. Outstanding show, gentlemen. And thank you so much to our guest. Absolute blast. And thank you so much to our listeners, especially those of you who have subscribed to our YouTube and those who are watching us on YouTube. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.